Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness.
This is episode 96.
And welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. Today, you have a Sheila, Webster, and Elise Seifert.
Hello, everyone.
Here we are again. This is our last episode on India. Now, sadly, I left India. So Elise is going to tell us what she did after I left.
That's right.
So we went to Agra and then we came back to New Delhi and then I had to leave because John made me. No. My trip was over. And so Elise and Julie were going on and they were doing more of the southern, I think, part of India.
Well, yes. Well, we started to explore more of the Northwest and then we moved our way down. We ended in kind of southern India. India is huge.
India is huge.
It is so big.
And I just found it so interesting. When I was in India, I never really knew where I was. You know what I mean? Like I knew kind of, okay, I'm in Agra, but no idea where Agra was.
Where in India.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of people are like, oh, you're from Canada. Do you know George from New Brunswick or something? You know what I mean? Like they don't realize how big Canada is.
Yes.
I think it's the same.
Yeah, and I think I knew what India looked like on a map, but I kind of didn't really realize the size of it. I think I knew what it looked like, the shape of it, where it was, but I didn't really realize how big that area is. It's quite big.
Quite big.
So after you had left, Julie and I had a month left of our travels, our planned travels.
That's longer than I was there the whole time.
Yes.
Because I was there for 3 weeks and you now have a month.
Yes.
You're a spoiled, rotten brat.
So we decided to do some of the big cities in the Northwest. So we went to Jaipur and Jaisalmer. And those cities are very well known for their architecture. So they had some really beautiful buildings. Jaipur is known for their kind of pink-hued buildings. So really beautiful architecture that we got to see there. Something that was really interesting in India was that people always wanted to take photos with us.
I know. So weird.
It was.
And especially Julie, because she had blonde hair. Like Elise and I have dark hair. But we do have dark curly hair. So they really liked that, the curls. But they really loved Julie's blonde hair.
That's right. So wherever we went, any kind of area where we were touring around, people would just come up to us and ask to take pictures with us, which I thought was very strange.
And they'd literally give you their baby.
They did, yes.
And you'd have to take a picture with them. Now, someone told me that this was actually a trap, that they would give you the baby and because your hands are busy, they might look through your pockets or something.
It's very possible. I didn't experience that, but it's very possible that that could happen because it happened so frequently that people would take photos with us.
Yeah.
And something strange that happened on our travels, we had been in that Northwest area and we had been traveling around by train. It was the most cost-effective way to travel. And so we get on a train ready for our overnight trip to Mumbai. And this family sits in front of us, kind of like across from us. And they were a family of 4 and the kids were older, probably in their 20s.
Okay.
And they're looking at their phones and they look at us and they're like, is this you? And they show us a picture of us with them.
No way.
From earlier in the day.
Get out.
No, what are the chances? So we're like, yes.
I thought they were going to show you Beyonce or something. Is this you?
No, it was us.
It was literally you.
It was us with them earlier in the day at a site. And we were talking to them. And I guess I had assumed that the people who were taking pictures with us were people...
Like local people.
Yeah, local people or tourist people that travel just within India. But this family, I mean, both of the kids had master's degrees. They were highly educated. And I'm like, why are you taking pictures with us? It just seems so strange to me.
And did you ask them that?
No, I didn't have the guts.
No.
I did not have the guts to ask them that. But I thought that was such a strange coincidence. And I was just so surprised that so many people wanted to take pictures with us just because we were white.
Yeah.
And I think it makes me check my privilege sometimes when I'm traveling or just in general in my life. I think about that a lot and what that means for me and what I should really consider a real problem. But that's another whole topic.
Okay. So you're now on your train going to Mumbai.
Mumbai, yes. Mumbai was a very vibrant, busy city.
Compared to New Delhi?
Yes.
Busier?
Mumbai is known for its slums.
Oh,
So it has a very different demographic, I think, than New Delhi.
okay.
So we had arrived in Mumbai, and actually we had the whole trip booked with a travel agent.
Yes.
But he said to us, the only thing I will not book is your hotel in Mumbai, because hotels in Mumbai are a little more expensive. And I don't know if you're going to want to pay the cost. So we kind of splurged on a hotel for ourselves because he told us that we should.
And supposedly you had a swimming pool in that hotel.
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't really remember.
I thought you splurged on a hotel and you had a swimming pool in one of them.
Maybe. I mean, we had some swimming pools in other hotels that we had stayed in throughout our trip.
Okay.
But I don't remember one in Mumbai.
Maybe it was just an expensive one.
I think it was. It was a very modern facility. It felt very clean, and it had like a scale in the room, which seemed so interesting. I mean,
wow.
Not just a private bathroom, but also a scale.
Wow. And just to give us an idea of expensive, do you remember kind of?
Yeah, it was $45 for a night.
Yes.
Yeah,
$45
so it's not
for a night. And of course, we have to remember that they were going on $30 a day for everything.
That's right.
So for them, that's expensive. But
that was expensive for us at the time, but it was well worth it. And something I found interesting in Mumbai was how they would kind of take advantage of the slums and their location. Like they had tours of the slums.
No way.
So we were trying to think about what to do while we were there. So we
Right.
were at our hotel and we were looking at kind of brochures of activities that you could do in Mumbai. And something that's big in Mumbai is Bollywood.
Right.
So one of the tours that they offered was a Bollywood tour, and we considered it, but I think it was $90 a person, and we don't really know any of the Bollywood actors.
True.
So it wasn't something that was super interesting for us. And then the other one that they offered was a tour of the slums. And we just didn't feel comfortable with that.
No.
We didn't feel comfortable paying to drive around to see how people lived in poverty. Mm-hmm. So we found that very shocking. Mm-hmm. But we got to see some really amazing museums in Mumbai. And we also got to see where the British first came in to India, and kind of, they called it the gateway to India. And that's where the British then left when they were exiled from the country.
Oh, okay.
So that was an interesting historical place to see. The gateway to India is what it was called.
Cool.
So Mumbai was a very interesting place to visit, and I'm glad that we had the opportunity to go there. Mm-hmm. And then to end our trip, we ended in the southern part of India in Kochi. That's known for the water kind of activities and a more relaxing vibe.
And how would you compare Kochi to Goa?
Okay, so Goa is where I was when I was doing my yoga teacher training.
Which was also in India.
It was, yes. It was also in India, and it was right on the ocean. And it was, I say Goa was kind of like a hippie commune almost. It felt like there were all these people coming together, learning about spirituality, mm-hmm. and primarily Western people visiting there.
Okay.
So there were a lot of Europeans visiting all together, whereas Kochi is kind of like a vacation spot for more people in India and also people who were tourists. So I would say that was the main difference. Goa had a lot of Westerners. Mm-hmm. So Kochi, we got to stay on a boat.
Nice.
So we had kind of like a boat tour with the boat, and then it stationed, and then we stayed on the boat overnight, which was a lot of fun.
Nice.
So we really enjoyed that time, and we got some massages. We kind of just treated it like a little vacation to end our trip. So that was a really nice time that we had there.
Good. That's excellent. And that was it. Then you left. Was that the end of your...
That was the end of our time in India. So we were really grateful that we actually booked with this travel agent, because he did things for us like private cars to and from the train station that he had organized beforehand. So we didn't have to deal with trying to get a tuk-tuk or a taxi and having to barter that way. And it's a little tricky when you're traveling. You don't really know where things are. So people tend to take advantage of that and will take you around a longer route to make it look like they're driving you further so that they can get more money from their taxi ride. So we really appreciated booking through a travel agent for that. And I think it was something like $600 for the month. And that included our accommodations, our taxi rides, our train rides, and usually it included a breakfast meal. So
wow. So it was definitely worth it to do that.
Yes. I always tell people that if you go to India, I would recommend going to see a travel agent, and they have the connections to set everything up for you, because it is really difficult to navigate yourself.
And I would recommend that they do that in India. Like, don't do it in Canada, because it would probably be a lot more expensive to do it here than to go there and get that. And they would know so much better. Go there and do it there and off you go. Yes.
But you have to be okay with letting go of control.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, something I learned a lot from that trip as a whole. So I was backpacking for 5 months total, and Julie and I didn't pre-book anything.
Right.
We had a general idea of which countries we wanted to go to and which cities within each country we wanted to visit. But we were flexible with the dates. We were flexible with the hotels. And I found that really challenging going into the experience because I like to know what's happening. I like to have an idea of where I'm going to be at what time. And I had a really hard time going in not knowing. But then once I was doing it, I think it taught me a lot about how to be more flexible and a lot more patience. So I think I gained a lot of skills from doing that experience.
I would say for sure. Yeah.
And it allowed us to do things like that, where we could just go to the travel agent, and those people, the locals, they have the best knowledge. They know exactly what you should be seeing and where you should be going. And I was so grateful for that travel guide or that travel agent who just led us right in the right direction. We had such an amazing time, and we didn't have to worry at all about where we were staying and making sure to check reviews carefully before we went. We knew that we were in safe hands. So
that's amazing.
It was a great time. And I always tell people India is one of my favorite places I've ever visited.
Really?
Yeah. Just because of all of the senses, you were just, how do I even phrase this? I think that it's an experience for all of your senses. And they just have so many things to see.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the categories of at least physical and mental wellness. Spencer Delisle has experienced and teaches the transformative power of breathwork and meditation, and we'll use this as a starting point and go from there. Welcome, Spencer.
Oh, thanks for having me, John.
Spencer Delisle is busy. He's a director and the facilitator with the Art of Living Foundation, MC and spokesperson for World Culture Festival 2023. He's vice president, faculty, and board member with TLEX Institute and vice president of the International Association for Human Values. He's been the lead instructor on multiple research studies examining the effects of meditation and breathing technique on stress and trauma. He was born in Montreal and has lived in many different places in Canada, enjoying varying landscapes and coastlines. I loved hearing that the goal of people he works with is to create a stress-free and violence-free world. That's music to my ears. And so today, Spencer, we plan to do 2 interviews that will air on different episodes. And the first starts with breath work and meditation and how that can make a difference in our lives. So maybe you could introduce that concept to us.
For sure. Well, thanks, John, for having us on. We live in this really crazy world. And I think many people might agree that it just seems to be getting busier and crazier with every year. Yeah.
I know. You wonder if it's really happening, but everyone says the same thing. So I think maybe it is.
Yeah, it's a wild thing. I mean, they even have a term for it. It's called this VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And we're constantly being pulled in all these different directions, and even if you take something as simple as like the technology we use in our life, well, I remember when email was first coming out back in the day, whatever it was, 20, 30 years ago, it was supposed to kind of give you more time. And actually, it's very useful, that's for sure. But now, if you don't respond to someone's ping within the next 1 or 2 minutes, well, it can be a big issue.
That's for sure.
And it seems like we just, we're just attached to these devices we have, and we're constantly carrying them around. And it's like, sometimes people tell me, I just feel like I can't shut off. Really, neither at home nor at school do we really learn how to manage our mind and emotions.
That's true. If I could just digress for a second. I used to commute to work on a GO train, on a commuter train, and I spent a good amount of time, an hour a day at least each way. And it was at the time before everything had come out. I remember sitting and thinking, wow, So first of all, wouldn't it be nice if I could even see something on my phone electronically, and then maybe daydream about email? But I didn't really think it would happen for quite some time. And I had all those optimistic thoughts that it would be good. But I think, in retrospect, it's so challenging now. People expect answers immediately, and you never feel like you can ever tune out. You're right.
It's so true. And, what is the consequence of that? Well, in some ways, it enables quick communication. And, especially when we have a deadline, that is very useful. But then there's a whole other side to it, that now people are feeling more and more depressed. People are feeling their high degree of anxiety. And, really many people just don't know what to do about it and just seem like they can't get out of it, whatever they try. And even, for people that, well, maybe their life is going very well, maybe they want to experience more joy, or maybe they want to see how they can push their limits a bit more. And one very powerful way that we can address kind of all of those different concerns and challenges and maybe kind of goals is actually through the breath. When you're stressed and you're overwhelmed, usually our mind tends to vacillate.
Okay.
Between the future and the past.
That's true. It's very hard to be in the present.
Yeah. And say I were to ask you, when you're overwhelmed, when you're stressed out, when you've just, you've got so much on your plate, you don't know how you're going to get it done, and your energy is very low, and your mind is stuck in the future, like what kind of emotions come up for you at that point?
Usually my spinning about future or the past tends to be, if it's in the past, it's things I regretted doing and trying to find some way to stop thinking about it, but I can't stop thinking about it. So then that kind of brings me down a bit. And if it's in the future, it's usually partially because of what I do for a living. It's how things might go wrong and how I might avoid them from going wrong. And I've said a few times on the podcast, I like this expression I heard. It's one that you hear commonly about the person on his deathbed who said, "I've had a lot of troubles in my life, none of which happened." Right? And that's kind of the point. Like whether you think back or forward, you're thinking of troubles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I mean, that's the problem we get into, this vacillating mind between those kind of anxieties about the future and the regrets about the past. And you hit the nail right on the head. Where is life really lived? Well, it's lived in the present moment. And it seems that more and more, most of us aren't really able to live there too often. And, the next step is like, okay, well then how do I, manage my mind and bring it back to the present moment? How do I release some of these, negative, you could say, impressions, these maybe traumas from the past, or even just, kind of negative impressions and ways of thinking from maybe just an argument you had in the meeting before. In the executive courses, we have many executives and people that work in the corporate world, and they come to us and they say, "I just don't know how to do it." I bring that frustration to the next meeting because we're on back-to-back meetings, and it's just, it becomes like almost like a natural thing. So,
just if I could jump in for a sec, you mentioned courses. So I know you're involved in many organizations. Is what you're talking about right now the one associated with the Art of Living Foundation?
That's right. So yeah, it's definitely associated with the Art of Living. What we do for all of our general public programs are through the Art of Living. And then we have a corporate arm called TLEX Institute. And those are all our corporate programs. And then all of the programs we do institutionally. So say we just had a meeting with a police service today in terms of doing some programming for their police force. And then everything we do for first responders and veterans and the prisons, that's all through the International Association for Human Values. And if we can just come back to it, one thing, if you think you're going to solve the problems of the mind at the level of the mind, often that's not going to happen, like if you think about it, like, if you can't sleep, can you convince yourself to go to sleep?
Right.
Well,
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. So that hasn't worked out too well. Because why is that? Well, it's very difficult to solve problems or the challenges of the mind, the level of the mind. So we need a tool that is both subtle enough to address the mind, which is subtle, and then tangible enough that we can actually use it. And that is where the breath comes in. And really the breath is the connection between the inner and outer world, the outer world of dynamism and activity, and that inner world of silence. And if you think about it, your breath is also connected to your thoughts and emotions. Like, for instance, how do you breathe when you're feeling angry?
I'm trying to imagine it, but I mean, I know it affects my breath, but I can't quite picture exactly what happens when I'm angry.
Yeah, usually, like a little bit faster, a little bit more tense, a little bit, more heat in the breath. Or when you're happy, you breathe in. It's like that in breath, you never feel it's going to end. And how about when you're sad? Often that sigh is there, right? So the breath can reflect our emotions. And what we do through these breathing techniques is that we actually make this into a two-way street. Usually we think a certain way, we feel a certain way, we breathe a certain way. So in our programs, what we use is certain very specific rhythms in the breath to help us release deeper seated emotions and trauma that are stuck from the past and bring the mind back to the present moment.
I can imagine that because to the extent that I have worked on breath work, I run, so I sometimes breathe when I run. I've done some weights, and we recently actually had an episode where a trainer helped discuss how to breathe during weight training. But for me, it's more during yoga. So there being yoga classes where either I bring myself back to the moment by trying to focus on my breath. And then there's some that I can't remember what they call it, but there's some breathing where you're actually trying to go quickly, like you're bringing out. And I can feel a really visceral reaction in my body from that. So I kind of get a picture of where you're coming at, but I don't think I'm at the level of sophistication you're talking about.
Well, I mean, the best way to understand it is to experience it. That's for sure. So yeah, hopefully one of these days we can get you and your viewers to come and experience the breathing techniques we do. Some are to increase energy, some are to make you more calm, but really the foundational technique, it's called Sudarshan Kriya or Sky Breath Meditation.
Okay.
When you finish this technique, it's like instantly energizing. I think that's one of the problems these days. A lot of us are just feeling tired all the time.
That's true.
No matter how much we sleep, even if we're eating right, we often feel tired. And this is just an instant energizer, this technique. And what we found as well, there's about 100 plus research studies on our techniques from Yale, Harvard, University of Toronto, University of Ottawa, Stanford, studying different aspects. But some of the more powerful benefits from the technique are increased level of energy, decreased level of stress. And at the same time, you get a state of being in a very deeply relaxed state and also a very, very high level of focus and awareness. So it's two that you don't often see together, right? Like usually you're stressed out and you're focused, or you're relaxed and you're just kind of, Netflix and chill on the couch and you're very relaxed. But the beauty of this technique is that it actually gives both in one through these very powerful different rhythms of breath. And, just by doing it a few minutes a day, we can start to actually lower that baseline level of stress and start to become more free from those emotions and those triggers from the past. One thing I think that is very powerful also about the technique is that what we've seen is that it delinks the connection between that kind of traumatic memory and that really visceral emotion that kind of chains us to the past. So that the memory, of course, still stays, but you become kind of free from it. And you're able to really kind of learn from what had happened in the past, let go, and be fully present and ready to take on whatever you need to take on in that particular moment with joy and enthusiasm.
I'll definitely have to include some links or something so people can check you out. It would be nice if we could find a way down the road to kind of work on, like, see what this actually means. A quick question on process logistics. Sometimes when I think about breathing, I think about that as part of kind of a long either meditation or a long yoga class. Is this type of breathing something that you could, if you're having that in your day, you could just, go off to the side for 5 minutes and try and get your breathing under control? In other words, can you do them in discrete moments, or is it part of a longer episode?
That's a great question. And yes to both, actually.
Okay.
So there are techniques that you can use, like really just in the moment, very acutely. No one will know you're doing them. And it can actually have quite a dramatic effect, whether it is to calm you down if you notice someone's kind of triggering you into anger or what have you, or frustration. Or if you're just noticing that maybe you're feeling a little down and you want to have a little more joy and enthusiasm, or you just want to pick up your energy, you're feeling a little low before a presentation or what have you. We have some techniques that you can use in the moment like that. And then the Sky Breath Meditation or the Sudarshan Kriya, you can do that actually even on a daily basis. So that type of technique is more something you can do. We like to say kind of at home as a daily practice, and it just gets you ready, lowers your baseline level of stress, and in just a few minutes, like 10 minutes of breathing, it actually gets you completely set for the day. I remember coming into this, and one of the things that I wanted to create is, I wanted to set myself right for the day, because some days you start off great when you roll out of bed, and there are other days, right?
Yeah.
So, in both cases, you want to perform at your best. Time is a limited commodity. So this really, practicing Sudarshan Kriya, it sets you up really, really in a powerful way for your day.
I can imagine that being very useful. Like I just know from my own experience when it comes to anything where I'm training my body that repetition and doing it regularly makes a big difference. But I can also imagine if there's a technique where, something's just gone off and I just need 10 minutes to kind of try and get back to the present, where some other techniques might be useful. So
yeah,
we're actually getting toward the end of the interview, and there is a question I ask every guest. But before I turn to it, is there anything else you wanted to tell us about this, the benefits and how you see it fitting in, or how we can learn more about it?
I think it's also important to kind of acknowledge, where this comes from. And I'd like to acknowledge my teacher and the founder of the Art of Living. His name's Sri Ravi Shankar. He's a global meditation master. He's really an international ambassador of peace. And he cognized these techniques. He's a yogi from India. And now he's established, the Art of Living, which is an organization that's in about 180 countries around the world. Over 500 million people have done the programs and attended the seminars. And really the goal that he set up for the foundation is to create a stress-free, violence-free world. That's the goal of the Art of Living. And hey, I think we've got our work cut out for us, that's for sure.
Yep, in this day and age, you're right.
There you go. But it's a beautiful goal. And that's one thing that I really appreciated is learning something from someone that is really established in this wisdom, that really exudes that joy and that enthusiasm. And I think, having someone that can be a teacher for you, whether that be one of the local teachers in your community or whether that be a global leader like himself, I think it's very inspirational. And yeah, he's made a really big difference in my life.
It's a really amazing goal. I just love the way it's expressed too. And I wish you all the best as you guys work towards that. And I'm hopefully going to do my part to keep a stress-free and violence-free world as well.
Wonderful. Yeah,
so,
we have to all join hands, don't we?
Well, we do. And, I call the podcast Let's Be Well Together. Part of that is because I think our best chance at wellness is together. And so, yes, I agree with you on that. And we're a show, actually, we talk about different areas of wellness, and we ask every guest the same question in a context where we have these different areas, but not enough time to focus on all of them at any given time. So we do essentially a mini wellness check-in. Are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing you can do to foster wellness in that area?
Definitely. One thing that comes to mind is I think because a lot of us are busy, leaders in our community, we have our family, there's just so much going on that when it comes to the end of the day, I almost feel that I just haven't taken any time to do anything, to connect with friends or to, enjoy a piece of music or something like that, or communicate. Often for me, it's on WhatsApp, just connecting with friends and chit chatting. And I often don't get time, or I don't take time for that throughout the day. So what often I do is I finish pretty late in the night with my work, and I end up on the phone, in my bed on the phone, connecting with friends and this kind of thing in different time zones. Feel fortunate to have friends around the world. And, a few 2-3 hours goes by of connecting with them on WhatsApp, and it's been a great experience. But all of a sudden now, instead of getting my nice, 7 hours of sleep, I've only got 4, to look forward to it. So, I think I have to figure something out around that, in that maybe I can just see how I can, give myself a schedule, maybe, so I don't end up spending 2-3 hours. Maybe I only spend half an hour, and I can do it outside of the bedroom, because we all know the blue light on the phone is not very good for your circadian rhythms. So I think that's one thing, that I could work on. No, I'm glad you asked me that question. It's something I can add to my routine that will benefit me.
It's a great answer too, because it fits into a few themes that we have. One of them is it's an example of a trade-off, right? You're trading off one area of wellness for another, which sometimes you have to do and sometimes good. But then another theme is making informed choices about those trade-offs. And it's easy not to think about it. It's easy just to keep doing those phone calls and not be thinking that you're giving up the sleep. And so, that's why we say, well, do a check-in, and so in this case, for example, you can say to yourself, I'm getting a lot of value out of my social wellness and talking to these people, but it's impacting a little too much on my physical health because I'm not getting enough sleep. And so I'm going to make a choice to change this way, right? And maybe it's just a bit less, but that's the really important point. Think about the trade-offs you're making, and then whatever you decide, it's your life. You decide what you want to do, but make it an informed decision instead of just letting these trade-offs happen without you recognizing them.
That's a great point.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Spencer. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I know we're going to do another interview, and thanks for this one.
Thanks, John.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of the Adventures of the Starving Artist. Ever since I was a teenager and I started performing music out and about here and there in the world, I've had this thing where every time I move somewhere or nearby somewhere, I kind of pick a daydream spot that I would like to play. When I was, 15, and I was just getting started, I was in Glenmorris at the time, right near Cambridge, Ontario, and at around that time, the Cambridge Mill restaurant had just sort of opened up and was getting going, and it was the fancy spot in town, and every time we drove by there in the car, I would kind of look at it and think, oh, geez, wouldn't it be something to play there? And then as I got older, I did. I checked that box off. And then when I was in Boston, there were a couple spots. In Cambridge, Massachusetts, there was a venue called the Middle East. And it's not a big grand venue or anything, but it was a happening spot. And I remember thinking, oh, I would love to get in a band and play that. And then I did. And then I thought, oh man, the Berkeley Performance Center, the BPC, that's a pretty renowned stage. I would love to play that. And then I did. And I was looking back at this sort of thing and seeing this pattern in myself that I always find a daydream spot or two and make it a goal to get there. And I don't hit it every time, but I was thinking about some of the wins. And as I was thinking about that, one of the shots that I took on goal over the past couple weeks happened to go in, and it scored, and we got a win. And it happens to be my daydream spot here in Ottawa. So here's the backstory. A few weeks ago, as my summer patio season of gigs was coming to a close, I was looking ahead into the winter season, and it was looking pretty slow. So I did what anyone in my position would do and started trying to book some gigs, especially towards the holiday season and aiming at some holiday-themed stuff. So I threw a line out to my buddy Jeff, and Jeff helped get me into the circuit up here in Ottawa and into the musicians circle. So a really cool guy, incredible player. He's in a couple bands, and he and I helped him out on a Bruce Springsteen cover, where I played some acoustic guitar and sang some vocals, and as part of a pretty large band setup. But Jeff also does a couple other projects. He's got his own band going on, and he's part of one called Little Bones, which is a tragically hip cover band that's pretty awesome. Anyway, I threw Jeff a line and said, hey man, like, would you be at all interested in doing some wintertime holiday-themed duo stuff? You on the guitar, I'll play some keys. We both sing, so we can mix that up. And he got back to me and said he'd be into that. And so I took the shot and I said, listen, man, any way that you've got a connection with the Chateau, I would love to play there. And so he, leave that with me, and he took it to his guy, and who knows what happened. I'm sure they took it to their guy and went to someone else. And anyway, I hadn't heard about it in a couple weeks. But today, as I was on a Zoom call, my phone went off, and lo and behold, the shot scored. So I get to play my daydream venue with one of my buddies, which is going to be sweet. So looking forward to November 27th for my very first time actually playing at the Chateau Laurier here in Ottawa. I'm pretty excited about it. It's a nice win after a little bit of a slow time. So feeling good. I got a little pep in my step, and wish me luck. Dust off the old tuxedo and the Christmas jazz and see what happens. With any luck, it'll be the first of many. So here's hoping. That's my little win to share. I hope you're having a great week and that you also get a win or two in there. Thanks very much for listening. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We're glad you're here, and we hope you're making wellness a priority. Hope you're getting something out of the podcast. And especially for people who are new, you might not know that the podcast was inspired by my book, Accidentally Well by John Webster. It's available on Amazon, Indigo, Barnes & Noble, pretty much anywhere where you can buy books online. And this is my pitch for you to buy a copy and have a read. I think it'll enhance the experience of the podcast, and it will also help us defray some costs because it's really expensive putting out a podcast. So grab a copy if you can, and in the meantime, enjoy the rest of the show.
Move that body like we're meant to do. I love bike riding, and I love my bike. But man, John, that was a bike ride.
True, although it wasn't like, oh no, this is a bike ride, until 3/4 of the way through it.
Yeah.
In my mind. Everything was fine till then.
Yep. Everything was great all the way. So John and I did a 40-kilometer bike ride when we were up in Collingwood.
But we didn't do it like, hey, let's do a 40-kilometer bike ride. And that's what this Move That Body's about. It's a destination as part of a Move That Body.
Yes, I went to Thornbury, and I really wanted to try and bike there because it is a little far, but I thought, you know what, we can do it. So I said to John, he was like, hey, what kind of things do you want to do while we're up here? And I said, I'd really like to do this bike ride if we can have good weather. If
we back up, actually, though, we're planning to spend a week up here. And at this time of year, biking isn't really something that jumps out at me. It's cold and windy and can be rainy. Mm-hmm. So when we were at home, Sheila's like, hey, are we bringing our bikes? And I'm like, the standard, wow, that means I have to put the bike rack on the thing. And so I was like, do you really want to use your bikes? Or are you just saying, let's just do it? Because if you don't really have something you want to do, and she didn't really have something particular, but she just said, I know I want to bring the bikes.
I really want to bring the bikes. I don't know if I'm going to use them because I can't predict the weather.
Anyway, I'm glad you did that because I was obviously leaning against not bringing the bikes, but now that we've had them, we've already biked a few times. Anyway, that was really fun.
Oh, it was amazing. And it was a little cold, but the paths were dry. So that was good. And it was so invigorating.
And I like looking up on maps. And the other thing you got to know too is we had already known from talking to somebody that there was a way to get from Collingwood to Thornbury on a bike path. So obviously there's a big highway, but we didn't want to go on it at all. Mm-hmm. And I like kind of exploring with the map systems. And there is this really great trail called the Georgian Trail. It goes from Collingwood all the way to a little town called Meaford, and Thornbury's on the way. And so we were able to loop into this trail. I think we were on the highway for about 200 meters.
Yeah, not too bad.
And then we entered the path system. And you do have to go, a kilometer or so up to get onto it. And then you eventually work your way back down, so it adds distance. But yeah, it was great. And we're like biking around on this smooth ride, not a lot of people because it wasn't perfect weather. And on the way there, I really didn't notice anything. Like I was just like doop-de-doop-de-doo.
Yeah, on the way there, you're just going, and it wasn't uphill or downhill too much. The paths were so well prepared and taken care of. We did have to pass the highway once, so that was a little difficult because it is an actual highway. So you got to go quick and pass it. But it was fabulous. And then Thornbury is so beautiful.
And if you want to see some photos from it, we made a kind of funny little reel video for Instagram. I think it's going to be up on October 30th. But if you look around the end of October, you can find our funny little reel.
All the way there. So do you have any funny stories?
We went to a nice little restaurant. So there's a kind of a restaurant there that we find a little, I don't know if you call it romantic or whatever you want to call it, but it's like a little
quaint.
It's right beside the river. It's a mill. And they have a really nice outdoor patio that we were hoping to sit on, even though it was cold.
Hoping. Yeah, I thought we could because the last time I was there, they had blankets. So I was pretty sure that they have it open until it snows.
But it was nice-ish, right? So we know we're going to a nice-ish restaurant. So it's not like you're like, we're going on this grueling trip and we need to put on our fancy bike gear and we're going to sweat buckets.
Yeah.
No, we just like kind of cruised along. And then it was very enjoyable to have lunch, really nice lunch.
Yeah, it was a lot busier than I thought it would be.
You looked really nice you switched into your nice sweater.
Yes, I took my hoodie off and put on a pretty sweater.
Yeah. When we first came in, I'm like, uh-oh, because I was expecting to be dead. It was on a weekday.
It was on a Monday, not just a weekday.
So here we are, both with hoodies and stuff.
Yeah.
And we go in and there's all kinds of people and they were all dressed pretty nice.
They
and it's a nice restaurant. And then we're going to sit right in the midst of all of them. But luckily you had that nice sweater you could switch into. So you made us look respectable.
Oh, very good.
So I'm not sure if I had a favorite part. I like the different sections. The one thing that I don't love is the Georgian Trail is really long and super straight. And then towards the ends of it, we had these little curvy sections.
Yeah.
I like that better.
I love those little curvy sections. And I actually do find when it's long and straight, you're not really sure where you are. You're kind of like, oh, is that where we stopped? Oh, is that halfway? Is this? So you don't know because you just keep going and going and going.
That you mean you don't know because I'm one of those crazy people. I'm continually looking at my watch and how many kilometers have we gone?
Yeah, and every sign, every post, everything. He's looking. I'm like,
anyway,
just do. Look at that fish.
So it was really fun. The one thing though was that so it was 20 kilometers, then lunch, break, jump on another 20 kilometers back. I have to admit that about the 30 kilometer mark, I started to get that feeling like I do on a long run where I'm tiring out. And then all of a sudden even though there's no kind of uphill because you're going along a water line.
You feel like it.
I started to feel like we were going uphill for the rest of the route.
I did too.
And I'm like, why is Sheila going just a little too fast? I was following.
You should have told me.
I know. But anyway, it was a bit tough, but I wouldn't say horrible, but it was a workout.
It was a workout. And I felt that kind of jello-y thing with my legs that you talk about when you're doing when you're training or when you're running your marathons,
right?
That jelliness where I don't know if I can keep my legs going, like they feel like they don't want to go. It just feels jelly,
something. It's really hard to describe, but you just know that they're not working at full capacity now. You've probably used up a lot of the glycogen in your legs.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But anyways, it was a great time. I'm really glad we did it. And hopefully we'll do it more often.
And I think that if we hadn't had a destination, that would never have happened. So it's nice to incorporate destinations and moving that body sometimes.
My favorite.
There's a thought. Popped up while running. I love to run. And this is by far my favorite time of year. I'm recording this in the fall of 2023. It's really incredible, actually, how the temperature and kind of the feel of the air can affect my run. And so I struggle a lot during the summer. I don't like running in the heat and humidity. It just drains me. Everything becomes so hard. I slow down. I wonder why I'm so slow. I mean, I know why, but it's the effect of the heat. if I have to train for long runs, they're so much harder, and you start to doubt yourself a bit, and you start to wonder if you're ever going to be able to run at your so-called normal speed again. And then fall comes. And my favorite running temperature, I would say, is kind of between 3 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I've had a few of those runs recently. They're so amazing. And it just feels like not only is running not draining me, it's energizing me. I've talked before about being able to taste the oxygen, being able to feel it, oxygen turning into energy as it goes into my lungs. And I'm just so enjoying this time of year. When the temperature is about 3 degrees to 10 degrees, that's really my sweet spot. That's what I really enjoy. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin. Hey, John, I thought we could talk about our movie experience today.
I got a great present from the kids. I think it was Christmas. At one of the movie theaters, you get a free ticket every month. And then I also can get a second ticket at a decent price.
Yeah, it's a great gift, and it was a Father's Day gift, actually.
Father's Day, okay. Well, it was great. And what I like about it is we'll see movies that we wouldn't ordinarily see. We normally were like, well, we'll wait till that comes to the TV.
Yeah, because it comes to the TV so quickly. But we've been going to see movies, and not every month, but you get a free one every month. And we've been going to see movies that we don't usually see, but this time we went to a movie that I actually wanted to see, and I heard great reviews about it.
The ones we went to earlier were ones we definitely wouldn't normally pay for. And when we got there was maybe 20 people in the theater.
I know, so small, because we had to go with our schedule. So it's often like, hey, let's go to a movie today, and we just look and see what's on. But this one, I actually wanted to see. So I said, hey, John, why don't you look it up? And so he went and tried to find the tickets, and there was only a few options available of where we could sit.
Yeah, it was so busy. But
busy.
I never really focused on that at the time. Just that, okay, well, it's limited seating. We're a little closer than normal. Mm-hmm. We went to see The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Both Sheila and I have read the series. We've seen all the movies. I quite like it.
I did too.
And then we saw the movie, and just on the movie side, it was amazing. I really liked it.
I really liked it too, but I just wanted to say one thing. I actually have really fond memories of reading the series because we were traveling for hours and we were reading to each other while we were driving. So it was like pre-podcast stuff or pre...
Oh, really? Was it reading as opposed to listening to it as an audiobook?
I would be driving and you would read to me, and then you would be driving and I would read to you. Yeah. You were
I don't
actually
think so
reading it.
because you get car sick. I think you had to drive because you can't read when you're passenging.
True. But I do remember reading a little bit. But anyways, needless to say, we were reading to each other. And I thought that was really fun, and it made the trip go really quickly. Anyway, so here we are. We're going to go to the theater. It's a Saturday night, which is rare in itself that we're going to a movie on a Saturday night. So it's busy. We get there. The popcorn lineup was busy. We get to the movie, and there's our seats. There was only one when there was supposed to be two. So we had to get people to move over. It was like a whole thing with all these people. It was just so surprising.
We sat down, but it didn't connect with me till the end. But when I turned around, there was it was full, and it was a big theater.
So full.
And for a minute, I was a bit like, oh my God, I'm with so many people.
Me too.
I got this anxiety for a second.
It was overwhelming, but it was really fun watching the movie because some of the kids were yelling out, or even adults were making comments and laughing. And it was just such a group experience that I haven't experienced since pre-COVID.
Yeah, a little social going on.
It was cool.
I thought it was great too. I guess the old me would have been like, shh, but it was so cool. Kid would be, no, or something, or somebody else would be, like, they'd laugh.
Oh, is he going to die? Oh, no. It was so great.
So it was a really cool social wellness little excursion, and also an enjoyable movie.
Really enjoyed the movie. I thought the actors were fabulous.
It was a really good movie. And the thing is, it's always risky to me to go to a movie like that. So this one was a prequel.
Yes.
So we've seen the Hunger Games series. It was great. We liked it. And now so I'll give you another example from my history, which was one of those Keanu Reeves movies, The Matrix. Okay, so I see the first Matrix, blows my mind.
It's
like, wow, that was
Watch
so
it
cool.
again and again.
And then, and then the problem was the next two I did not really enjoy. And not only that, it ruined the first one, because at the end of the first movie, he takes off and the whole world is the possibility. And so our imaginations are launched into what might happen. Well, it wasn't 2 and 3.
No.
That's not where my imagination went.
No.
So now I'm not even as interested in the first, because the sequels kind of ruined the first for me.
Right. Yeah.
So it's risky, right?
It is.
Do you go to this movie and potentially ruin it? But it was fantastic. And I'm not sure. I don't remember seeing the lead actor, Tom Blythe, in other stuff.
No, me neither. He was pretty young.
He was young, but I'm sure he must have a history, because you don't get that role out of nowhere.
No.
I thought he was excellent. And I think we're seeing somebody blossoming as kind of a next superpower actor.
And I was really having a struggle personally, because I can't like him because he's Snow, right? He's the bad guy and I can't like him, but I do like him and I feel for him, but no, so it was really...
Which is exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
But see, I never, even watching The Hunger Games with Donald Sutherland as being the bad guy, I always felt, because in my job, nothing's as simple
Black and
as
white.
it looks. People think, oh, that person's evil, that person's bad, your position is terrible. But I know that there's probably a lot more going on that got a person into that position.
Exactly.
Even though obviously Snow was doing terrible things to the actors we liked, and he was opposed to them and trying to beat them, I always had this sense that there was something behind it. And now we're starting to see that. And I think that's what they want. They want you to see that gray area and have a little bit of empathy to add to your hate.
Now, does it make you want to rewatch the series?
Definitely.
Me too.
I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to do spoiler alerts, but people said things or you heard names and now you're like, oh, whoa, I want to go back. And I guess the only thing that concerns me a bit is I got the feel like there's 10 or 20 more coming out. So hopefully none of those ruin anything.
Yeah.
But it was a fun social wellness experience and we love the movie. Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. It's Sheila here with Elise and John. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, it's Thanksgiving weekend for the Americans, so I'd like to wish them a happy Thanksgiving. I hope all our American friends had a great time. And now I think it's officially Christmas shopping time, because I was out on Friday and holy moly, the stores were packed and the people were driving in, just frantic, that kind of feeling. And it has begun. For us, we did have a few social events this week, and one of them was a Christmas party. John's work had his Christmas party, and it's the first time since COVID.
It's the first time where people outside our office were invited.
Yeah.
Like spouses, partners, etc.
Yeah, it's the first time we've actually got together. So I know that
in 4 years.
Yeah, in 4 years. So that was really fun, and it was just really great to see everyone. It just seemed like such a long time. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was my good deeds. I started yesterday. So
well, let's just give some context. So for people who didn't hear last week, Sheila's thinking as an Advent calendar on doing kind of random acts of kindness, good deeds on that basis. But she started early.
I did. I started early. I started a week early. So hopefully I can keep it going till Christmas. But I started on Saturday and I had a good deed on Saturday and a good deed on Sunday. So hopefully I can continue it. So I basically give myself something to do that's good. And I try and do it. So we'll see how that goes. So that's what's new with me. What about you, John?
Okay, you want the good news or the bad news?
Let's do good news first.
The good news is I was able to get my 10K runs in last week and the week before.
Very good. What's the bad news, John?
The bad news is I have once again fallen off my regular workouts and I'm not doing the running I should be doing. And both this week and last week, I did the really dumb thing of leaving my 10K run till the last possible day on Sunday. And I was worried that if I do that, the weather might be terrible or I might be injured or sick and I might not get it done. And this streak does mean something to me. So the good news, like I said, was I got through it, but I have got to get my act together. So once again, and we've heard this before, people, starting
Tomorrow.
I'm going to try and turn things around again and try and get back. I did have some injuries that I've now recovered from, and then I just kind of was lazy. So it's time to get my act together. How about you, Elise?
Well, I also need to get my act together in terms of workouts because I've completely fallen into my workout routine.
It's so easy.
It's hard to believe that last week was only a week. It was one of those weeks where it feels like it was like 3 weeks.
Yeah, we were wondering what would happen with all those interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went really well. And I always worry about them beforehand. I had my parent-teacher interviews. I always get so worried. And then I'm like, why did I worry about this? There's no reason. But it went really well. And then this week, I do have a big change in my classroom. We have done some rearranging at my school. So I'm going to have 7 new students join my class. And I get my early childhood educator partner back.
Nice.
So it's pretty exciting. I get to work with her again. She's an amazing coworker. But that's a big change. And I do have to kind of backtrack and reestablish my routines and my expectations in the classroom. So I think it's going to be a tiring week for me work-wise.
Very interesting.
But we can get through it.
Yeah.
Yep. Sometimes that's what weeks look like. You're like, hope to get through it.
Yes. One day at a time.
I think that's how it'll be.
Well, very good. I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you and speak to you next week. That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.